He entered the world as Daryl Renard Richardson III, but the streets baptized him as Lil Scrappy and, trust me, his childhood was anything but sweet. Born on January 19, 1984, in Atlanta, Georgia, Scrappy didn't grow up, he survived. His neighborhood, brutal. His circumstances, even worse. But here's the twist that'll drop your jaw. His father vanished before he even took his first breath. Scrappy was raised by his mother, Deborah Bryant, later known to the world as Mama Di, a woman, equal parts fierce and flawed. She ran the streets as a pimp and drug dealer, not because she wanted to, but because survival didn't leave her many options. And that's where Scrappy's story starts to sting, because he wasn't just raised around chaos. He was dragged straight through it. Imagine a little boy witnessing things that would break grown men: violence, loss, betrayal. Scrappy didn't just lose a father. He lost the innocence every kid deserves. But out of that wreckage, music was born. By the time he was 9, he was scribbling lyrics like lifelines, turning pain into poetry and heartbreak into hooks. When no one heard his cries, music listened. It saw him. And in his early teens, Scrappy hit those Atlanta corners with nothing but homemade CDs and a hustler's hoper forming, like every verse might save his life. Because for him, it honestly might have. This is where it all began. Fate flipped the script one wild night at a bar in Atlanta. Lil Scrappy hit that stage like it was door die. The room electrified, the crowd locked in, and watching from the shadows. None other than the undisputed king of crunk at the time. But here's where it gets crazy. Lil Jon didn't just clap. He offered Scrappy a deal. Right then and there, that handshake lit the fuse that would launch Scrappy out of the streets and into the spotlight. But here's the twist: escaping the block didn't mean escaping the pain. Every beat he dropped, every line he spit, carried ghosts from a past that never really let go. His music wasn't just sound, it was survival. The higher he climbed, the heavier his past dragged behind him like an anchor. And the wildest part, even with fame knocking and fans screaming coast to coast, Scrappy still felt like that same little boy chasing a sense of safety he'd never truly had. This wasn't just a come-up. It was the beginning of a dark, winding road. Heartbreak, betrayal, breakdown after breakdown. Life tested him at every turn. The industry wasn't ready for that kind of emotional weight. And as Scrappy stepped deeper into the spotlight, the pace went from hustle to hurricane. One night, he was slinging mixtapes on corners, and the next, he was chasing destiny with the world watching. One night he was slinging mixtapes from a backpack, and the next, he was side by side with Lil Jon, crafting anthems that would shake the southern rap scene to its core. Here's where things take a wild turn. Didn't just hand out features, but he saw something raw in Scrappy and gave him a shot that most young rappers only dream about. Just like that, Scrappy landed a deal with BME Recordings, becoming one of the earliest voices in the crunk explosion. The same boy who once felt invisible was now the soundtrack to club nights across America. But here's the gut punch: no matter how loud the crowd screamed, the pain he carried from his childhood stayed right there in his chest. Every bass drop, every verse, it all carried fingerprints of his broken past. Even with the cash rolling in, tour dates stacking, and fans screaming his name, that little boy inside still felt like a stranger in the world. The streets had built him, but the spotlight, it was exposing everything he'd tried to bury. And just when things seemed to finally line up, chaos reared its head. One night in 2002, during a set at Club Legacy, all hell broke loose. A brawl erupted mid-performance, fists flying, bottles crashing, panic everywhere. It felt like a scene ripped from a street film. But believe it or not, that's the exact moment Lil Jon saw him, right in the center of the storm. The very chaos that should have ruined Lil Scrappy's shot at success became the exact thing that got him signed. That's what makes this story hit different. A night of pure madness didn't end his dream, it launched it. But don't get it twisted. This was just the first wild turn on a road that was anything but smooth. The crunk scene, it was a beast. High voltage, no brakes. The crowd energy was insane, but that same fire, it burned both ways. In 2005, while performing in Florida, Scrappy got a brutal reminder. A run-in with the police ended with him being shoved clean off the stage. That night wasn't just chaos, it was a warning that no matter how far he'd come, the fall was always one mistake away. The kid from the struggle had mastered the art of rising from rubble, but just when he found his footing again, life hit harder. One violent night, a bottle came flying from the crowd and shattered across his face, knocking out 2 front teeth. The pain was vicious, but the message was louder. Fame doesn't make you untouchable. But here's where it turns. Scrappy didn't fold. The boy who once got dragged through dirt became a man who refused to break. His journey was dangerous, bloody, and real, but each scar, it carved out a fighter. The kind of man who rises no matter how many times life tries to bury him. And as the years rolled on, Scrappy kept climbing. But don't be fooled into thinking he had it easy, because here's where it really gets wild. Here's the part that'll stop you in your tracks. Behind the beats, the fame, the flashing lights, Lil Scrappy was still locked in a silent war no one could see. What sets this story apart is simple. Success didn't erase the pain. The same boy who grew up fatherless and under the care of a streetwise mother still carried those wounds, now buried deeper under the weight of manhood. And trust me, it came out in ways that rocked his world and shook the people closest to him. The most jaw-dropping moment, 2022. A raw, explosive episode of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta captured a showdown between Scrappy and Mama D that fans weren't ready for. This wasn't scripted drama, this was real-life emotion spilling all over the screen. Scrappy finally said what he'd been choking on for years. He told Mama D that while she had given him shelter and helped him chase his dream, she also left him to emotionally fend for himself. And just like that, the mask cracked. Mama D defended herself, saying she did what she had to do, and every gritty hustle was to keep him afloat. But here's the part that hit the hardest. Scrappy wasn't crying over money. He was grieving the love he never got, the protection he never felt. That moment didn't just shift the room, it cracked open his reflection. And the story, it was far from over. The world around him kept moving, but for Lil Scrappy, this wasn't just a reality TV moment, it was a reckoning. What makes this story hit deeper is that this wasn't about ratings. It was about a man confronting the ghosts that raised him. The boy who once felt discarded was now a grown man, trying to unpack the why. And that truth cut deeper than any scene ever filmed. But heartbreak doesn't clock out. The real test came with his wife, Bambi. Life threw another curveball when Scrappy began revealing how his past traumas shaped the way he loved and hurt the people closest to him. This is how a man born from pain tried to create something better, a family of his own. But here's the gut-wrenching twist. Those same emotional walls that once protected him now kept his loved ones out. Love and Hip Hop's cameras didn't flinch. They caught the pain, the confusion, the emotional collision. Scrappy torn between the child he used to be and the man, the father, the husband he desperately wanted to become. And every crack in his story, every betrayal, every emotional breakdown wasn't destruction, it was transformation. The kind that scars and builds at the same time. And then came 2018. A near-fatal car crash shattered his body, left his face marked, but didn't steal his fight. That wreck, it didn't end him, it woke him up. It was the universe reminding him, life breaks you, but it also hands you the hammer to rebuild. And for Scrappy, that crash wasn't the finale, it was the rebirth. Lying in that hospital bed with shattered bones and a bruised face, something in Lil Scrappy finally shifted. Believe it or not, that near-death moment didn't break him, it woke him up. Let me tell you, the boy who'd learned to survive fists and silence on the streets was now a grown man chasing peace instead of chaos. What makes this story stand out is simple, it proves that no matter how deep the pain, some people rise anyway. Then came the wildest twist yet. In 2022, a rumor exploded online claiming Lil Scrappy had died. The internet spiraled. Fans feared the worst. But here's the plot twist. Scrappy wasn't just alive, he was thriving. He clapped back online, beaming beside his kids, showing the world he was still standing, still fighting. In that moment, he didn't just shut down the lies, he reminded everyone who he really was, built from resilience, wired for survival. From betrayals to heartbreak, wreckage to recovery, Scrappy's story never bowed to tragedy. This isn't a tale of defeat, it's the legacy of a man who kept getting up. Today, Lil Scrappy is more than bars and beats. He's a husband, a father, a man who learned to love and be loved. The boy once left behind found his home and family. The man once torn apart learned how to heal, and that's the real message here. Scrappy didn't win because he never fell. He won because every time life tried to crush him, he rose louder, stronger. And that's why this story still echoes, because it's not